disgusting.
Yeah, that is pretty gross for 1999, I'd imagine. Welcome to QuickCompare, the show where we take a multi-platform game, choose two platforms, and try to decide which one has the definitive edge. And today, we are of course looking at DinoCrisis for PlayStation and Dreamcast. DinoCrisis often gets compared to Resident Evil. They're both made by Capcom, they're both survival horror games, but I don't really think that's a fair comparison because, I mean, DinoCrisis lets you kind of actually move and shoot at the same time, and that's something Resident Evil still hardly lets you do. Anyway, DinoCrisis actually uses real-time 3D rendered backgrounds instead of pre-rendered backgrounds found in the Resident Evil series up to that point. This game actually predates Code Veronica, so this technically was Capcom's first survival horror game to support fully rendered backgrounds. DinoCrisis released on PlayStation 1 in August of 1999, and the Dreamcast version followed over a year later in November of 2000. Now, this comparison is actually pretty interesting because as far as content in the games go, they are completely 100% identical. There's no added features or removed features in either game. They both have the exact same stuff. They have the same costumes, same unlocks, everything. It's all 100% identical. As far as menus go, the Dreamcast version does have a slightly altered save and load screen as well as a different start screen because it doesn't have a select button like the PlayStation version does. And again, as far as modes go, 100% identical. You have the main game that you could play on normal or easy, and then you have the unlockable minigame after you beat it. But that's not to say that there aren't differences in the game. This is a cross-generational release that we're comparing today. We have PS1 Gen 5 and Dreamcast Gen 6, so there should be some noticeable differences here. And yes, there are, and it's a lot more interesting than I really was going to give it credit for to begin with. Starting with the PlayStation version, we are running at a resolution of 240p across the main menu, FMVs, and gameplay. But when you try to access your inventory, the game will switch to 480i. I honestly wasn't anticipating this resolution switch, so I didn't ever bother resetting my capture card when I entered into a menu, since the menu navigations featured in my side-by-side at the end of the video were super short. This resolution change is important for anyone looking to stream or capture the game because you will need to do whatever steps it is to get your capture card to switch resolutions with you. If you're just playing on a CRT, you wouldn't even know the difference, so. Other things to note about the PlayStation version is that it is heavily aliased due to the lower resolution, and it features the typical PlayStation texture warping. But now let's focus on the Dreamcast version of DinoCrisis because things are not quite what I expected to find here. First off, the game is running in 480i. The game does not support a VGA box and thus 480p output. Oddly enough, the game released in the year 2000, you'd think that they would have done VGA support on it, especially since other Capcom ports at the time did feature VGA support, like Resident Evil 3. Now, this 480i output does extend throughout every aspect of the game from main menu, FMVs, gameplay, and in-game inventory, so there's no resolution switches going on the Dreamcast version. Now, the main benefit of this resolution bump is the fact that the game is way less aliased over on Dreamcast. It still has some aliasing, but nowhere near as much as the PlayStation version. The Dreamcast version also has the added benefit of having a lot less texture warping during gameplay. This isn't to say texture warping is completely eliminated though, because it still has heavy texture warping in the same places they were found on the PlayStation version. I mean, check out this sign on this gate right at the beginning of the game. Or even this fence when you first find the body. So even though the Dreamcast version has the added benefit of being a little higher resolution with less aliasing and less texture warping, there are some oddities going on with this version that I really want to point out here. First of all, the game is really blurry. It looks like it's using some sort of bilinear filtering to help reduce aliasing further. And this is something I'd expect to see on like an N64 version of the game if one existed, but from the Dreamcast version I really wasn't anticipating this level of texture blurring. The Dreamcast version also looks like it has a lower contrast ratio and things are just a lot brighter and more discolored than they appear on the PlayStation version. Like seriously, why does everything look a little more green? It's puzzling really. I don't understand. It's odd. Moving on to audio, this is another really interesting thing between the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast version. The music and voice audio quality sounds exactly the same to my ears, and even the wavetables on Premiere look identical. They look like they're the same exact assets. Yet for some reason in the Dreamcast and PlayStation versions, these audio files will play at different times in a cutscene. Like, even if you try to line them up by audio wavelength, by the end of the cutscene, things will have been different between both consoles at different points and have lined up with both consoles at different points. It's really odd. It was also a bit annoying considering I couldn't get a lot of the in-game cutscenes to line up perfectly for the side-by-side just because of this reason. Now, there is one area I would really love to praise DinoCrisis for, and that is load times. Sure, the game still features door animations to represent its load times, but they are in no way as obtrusive or as long as the ones found in the Resident Evil series. Like, I didn't mind them that much, whereas in Resident Evil, I get really annoyed by them quickly. The interesting thing to note here between the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast version, though, is that the loads are radically different. They're both fast, but there are some areas where the PlayStation 1 is faster, and there's other areas where the Dreamcast is faster. It's really interesting and odd. But I guess that's kind of DinoCrisis in a nutshell. It's just kind of odd, these differences so far. Moving on to controls, we have another bit of an odd design choice here. Neither the Dreamcast or PlayStation versions of the game can use an analog stick. All movement is relegated to the D-pad, and this does use tank controls, so you're going to be rotating right and left, pressing up to move forward, down to move back. So I guess in a way, the analog stick being locked out kind of makes it easier for people to understand that form of movement, I guess? But both versions of the game at least feature force feedback support as long as you're using a DualShock or have a rumble pack inserted into your Dreamcast. The Dreamcast version also has the added benefit of being able to see your health and ammo on the VMU screen if you happen to be using one. Not a game-changing option really, but still pretty cool to see. Now let's talk about price, because both versions of the game have shot up dramatically in the price department over the last couple of years. Starting with the PlayStation, you could find a copy of the game anywhere between $15 to $40, depending on condition and disc-only versus complete in box. Over on the Dreamcast, things shoot up to around $35 to $60, depending on condition and completeness. But the time has come for us to decide our winner, and taking everything that we've seen into account, I'm oddly gonna go with the PlayStation version on this one. Now, I know a lot of you are gonna rage at me in the comment section about that, but when you consider all the deficits of the Dreamcast version when it comes to actual presentation, I don't feel bad by choosing that. I think the PS1 version looks amazing. It's a really great looking game for the system, and it just has better colors and textures. Sure, they might be a little bit more aliased, but still, when you're playing on a CRT, like, it looks pretty dang freaking good. The PlayStation's D-pad is also just so much better than a Dreamcast controller's D-pad, so as much as I love my Dreamcast controller, that D-pad is not a great way to play games with, sadly enough. The price difference is also worth noting because you're going to be able to get a PlayStation version a lot cheaper than a Dreamcast version most of the time. Now again, this isn't to say that the Dreamcast version is a terrible version of the game. The Dreamcast version is actually the only version of this game I've owned up until picking up the PS1 version for this comparison. But again, I think the PS1 version just takes the cake here in every department. But that does it for this week's episode of Quick Compare. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. All of the likes, shares, everything you do really helps build this channel, so please continue to do so. I am super grateful to all of you for that. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, dislike button, just depending how much you like today's comparison. If you'd like to further help support the channel, why don't you go ahead and check out this join button right down here underneath the video, or check out the Patreon link in the video description below. Everything goes right back into supporting the channel to let me make more content just like this for all of you to watch and enjoy. So as always, I am just grateful for your consideration. But that's it for me for today, so I hope you enjoy this side-by-side of DinoCrisis running on original hardware through RGB through an OSSC.
You have mail. The second report from Military Experiment Facility. Agent name, Tom.
I have successfully infiltrated under the guise of a researcher as planned. I have encountered no information regarding top-secret development of new type weapons. But I have discovered there is an unexpected individual at this facility. The man is Dr. Kirk, the leading authority of our nation's energy research. Dr. Kirk was alleged to have died in an accident during the course of an experiment 3 years ago. The reports were premature, and it appears that he is currently working as the head of a non-weapon project at this facility. The experiment is in the late stages of development. Regarding the staged accidental death, it appears that this country is somehow taken immediately.
Refer to the data on Dr. Kirk. Operation instructions.
Approaching drop zone.
Feels like we got a little turbulence.
Once you hit the ground, head straight to the designated convergence point. Got it?
Sorry I'm late.
It's time. Let's move out.
What about Cooper?
Forget him. Time's up.
Wait! Wait!
Okay, this is the first checkpoint. Playtime is officially over, kiddies. Something's wrong. The lights in the guardhouse are out.
Maybe this has been a wild night of partying for the guards. You know, a little song, a little dance.
Stay here, Junior. Leave the guards to me.
Hey, did you hear what he just called me?
Forget about it. Just let Gale handle this.
All right, it's clear. Okay, let's do this. I'll infiltrate the facility and occupy the control room on the first floor. I should have access to all the security systems from there. I'll contact you as soon as I've cleared the room.
Let me guess. This is some of your handiwork, right?
The brass is still warm. These guards were shooting at something very recently.
So who were they fighting?
This wasn't much of a fight. I don't think these guards hit anything before getting sliced and diced. Whatever they were shooting at came in through there, and ripped right through the steel fence.
Well, the hole is nice and clean. But I still say you could have done this.
Very funny. We still need to figure out what happened here. Continue to sweep the area. Rick can handle the...
Rick here. I'm in. The place is deserted, though. I have a very bad feeling about this.
How's the progress going with that security system?
I don't know what's been going on here, but it looks like all the power in this facility's been cut.
Same here.
What's been going on here, but it looks like all the power in this facility's been cut.
Same here.
As long as that's the situation, there's not a lot I can do. Why don't you see if you can gain access to the backup generators on the ground level?
I'm on it. What are you doing here?
I caught the last part of your conversation.
By the way, I found a key.
Hand it over. Let's head outside.
That's disgusting.
This guy's been eviscerated. Something tore his intestines straight out.
Look at those tooth marks. It had to be some sort of animal.
Okay, let's move on.
Gale?
Good news. I got the control system back online. What's the situation over there?
It's Gale. I lost him.
So what's the bad news? Did you run into some guards?
You're not gonna believe this. He was attacked by some kind of dinosaur.
Now that's a good one. So, who was it?
This isn't a joke, you idiot. We were just attacked by a big-ass lizard.
For real? What's going on over there? Alright, head over to the control room and we'll sort out this whole situation.
What's our status?
This security system is a snap for me. Real amateur stuff. So, what exactly happened to Gale? You said that he was attacked by a dinosaur?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I just hope he's still alive. Anyway, our first priority is to complete the mission.
What we ought to do is just call in the chopper and get off this death trap.
That's a great idea, but Cooper has the radio, and he's missing. Hey, what's with this monitor?
That's the security monitor for the underground area. The camera's offline.
So I take it that means power still hasn't been restored to the area.
Exactly. They must have that area wired to a different power system than the ground level.
We can investigate that area after we finished our sweep of the ground level.
Okay, then I'll take care of the shutters that are blocking the way. You work your way in, grab the dock, and then rendezvous back here. Yeah. Now what I want to know things are coming from.
A survivor.
Are you from the rescue team?
Yes, I am. Do you know where I can find Dr. Kirk?
Kirk? That fool. What's he putting now?
What are you talking about?
Here. Take this.
What's this for?
I don't know. Told me extremely vital.